a passenger jet at 30,000 feet, a device hidden in the cargo hold. And when they landed, the bomb squad discovered something impossible. The wires had been cut, but no one on that plane had access to the cargo area during flight. Someone saved 300 lives that day and then vanished without a trace. Before we dive in, what time are you listening? Where are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me. And please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Flight 740. 3 departed from Boston at 6:30 in the morning. Captain Michael Reynolds had flown this route 100 times before. Boston to Seattle, 5 hours over the heartland of America. He settled into his seat, ran through the pre-flight checks, and waited for clearance from the tower. Behind him, 297 passengers buckled their seat belts. Families heading home. Business travelers with laptops already open. A group of college students returning from spring break. None of them knew that someone had placed a device in the cargo hold, a device designed to detonate somewhere over the Rocky Mountains. The flight attendants moved through the cabin with practiced efficiency. Coffee, orange juice. The woman in seat 12A asked for extra napkins. The man in 14C complained about the lack of legroom. Everything was normal. Everything was routine. Captain Reynolds pushed the throttle forward and the plane lifted off the runway, climbing into a cloudless March sky. 3 hours into the flight, a warning light flickered on the instrument panel. Reynolds frowned. It was a minor alert, something about irregular pressure readings in the cargo hold. He radioed ground control. They told him it was probably a sensor malfunction. These things happened all the time. He made a note in the flight log and continued on course. But the light kept blinking. Red. Persistent. Demanding attention. Sarah Chun sat in seat 23F, working on a presentation for a client meeting in Seattle. She was a structural engineer, and she had spent the last 6 months designing a new bridge for the city. Her laptop screen showed stress calculations and load-bearing analyses. She did not notice the flight attendant walking past her 3 times in 5 minutes. She did not see the way the crew members glanced at each other with tight expressions. She was focused on her work, lost in numbers and diagrams in the cockpit. Reynolds made a decision. He told his co-pilot to run a full diagnostic on the cargo hold systems. The co-pilot, a younger man named Travis, who had only been with the airline for 2 years, pulled up the monitoring software. What he saw made his hands freeze on the controls. The temperature in the cargo hold was rising, not by much, just 3 degrees. But it was rising in a specific section, a concentrated area near the aft bulkhead. Reynolds felt his pulse quicken. He had been flying for 23 years. He had handled engine failures, severe turbulence, and once, a passenger who tried to open an exit door mid-flight. But this was different. This felt wrong. He radioed ground control again. This time, his voice carried an edge of urgency. They told him to maintain course. They would send the readings to their technical team. He insisted something was not right. The voice on the other end paused. Then it told him to hold his position. 15 minutes passed. The plane cruised at 37,000 feet. Below, the plains of Nebraska stretched out in geometric patterns of brown and green. Sarah Chun saved her presentation and closed her laptop. She looked out the window and thought about her daughter waiting for her in Seattle. She thought about the promise she had made to take her to the aquarium that weekend. She did not know that, in the cargo hold, Nestled between two suitcases and a box of machine parts, a timer was counting down. The radio crackled to life. Ground control had consulted with their security team. They wanted Reynolds to divert to Denver immediately. No explanation. Just get the plane on the ground as fast as safely possible. Reynolds felt ice in his stomach. He had never received an order like that before. He began the descent without telling the passengers why. The flight attendants announced that they were making an unscheduled stop due to a technical issue. Please remain calm. Please stay in your seats. Some passengers grumbled. Others shrugged. A few checked their watches and calculated how late they would be to their connections. No one panicked, because no one knew. In the cargo hold, the device continued its countdown. 42 minutes remaining. The temperature climbed another degree. Denver International Airport cleared all runways. Emergency vehicles lined up along the taxiway. Fire trucks, ambulances, unmarked black SUVs that arrived with no sirens and no explanation. The control tower guided Reynolds in with clipped, professional instructions. He brought the plane down smooth and fast, touching the runway with barely a bump. As soon as the wheels made contact, he hit the brakes hard. The plane decelerated rapidly, and passengers lurched forward in their seats. The moment the aircraft stopped, airport security swarmed the plane. They did not let anyone off. The passengers sat in confused silence while men in uniform spoke in hushed tones with the flight crew. Sarah Chun watched through her window as a vehicle with flashing lights pulled up to the cargo hold. She saw men in heavy protective gear climb out. Bomb squad. Her engineer's mind immediately understood the implications. She felt her mouth go dry. The bomb squad captain approached the cargo hold with his team. They had been briefed on the flight. Elevated temperature readings, unusual sensor alerts, possible explosive device. They opened the hold carefully, shining lights into the dark space, and there it was, wedged between luggage, a grey box with wires protruding from its sides. The captain's blood ran cold. He had seen devices like this before, in training, in photographs from crime scenes. This was real. This was active. He radioed his team. They needed to evacuate the plane immediately, get everyone off and get them far away. But as he leaned closer to examine the device, his flashlight caught something. That made him stop. The wires, they had been cut, not torn, not damaged, cut cleanly, precisely. Recently, the exposed copper gleamed in the light. Someone had disarmed this bomb. The captain's mind raced through possibilities. Airport security had not touched the plane until it landed. The cargo hold could not be accessed during flight. It was a sealed compartment. The only entry point was from the outside, on the ground. So how had someone gotten in? How had someone cut these wires? He examined the device more carefully. The cuts were professional, clean snips with wire cutters. This was not amateur work. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. He called for his team to secure the device and search the entire hold. They went through every piece of luggage, every box, every container, looking for any sign of how someone had gained access. They found nothing. No tool marks on the hull. Number. Evidence of tampering with the access panels. No indication that anyone had been inside that space since the plane left Boston. Yet the bomb had been disarmed. The wires had been cut. 300 lives had been saved by someone who left no trace. The FBI arrived within the hour. They interviewed every passenger, every crew member, every airport employee who had any contact with the plane in Boston. Sarah Chun sat in a small room with 2 agents and answered questions for 40 minutes. No, she had not seen anything unusual. No, she did not know anyone who would want to harm the flight. No, she had no idea how someone could have accessed the cargo hold. The agents thanked her and moved on to the next passenger. The investigation expanded. They pulled security footage from Boston Logan Airport. They tracked every person who had been near the plane during boarding. They ran background checks on the entire crew. They examined the device itself for fingerprints, for DNA, for any microscopic evidence that might reveal who had disarmed it. They found nothing. The bomb had been placed by someone who'd vanished into the morning crowds of Boston, and it had been disarmed by someone who might as well have been a ghost. Captain Reynolds gave his statement 3 times. To airport security, to the FBI, to his airline's internal investigation team. He told them about the warning light, about the temperature readings, about his decision to divert to Denver. But he had no answers about the cargo hold. He had been in the cockpit the entire flight. The door had been locked. No one had gone in or out. Travis, his co-pilot, confirmed every detail. The flight attendants were interviewed separately. Their stories matched. No one had left their positions. No one had done anything out of the ordinary. The news media caught wind of the story within 24 hours. Reports flooded the airwaves. A bomb on a passenger jet. Disarmed by an unknown hero. Speculation ran wild. Some said it was an undercover air marshal who was trained in explosives, but the flight had no air marshal on board. Some said it was a passenger with military experience who somehow gained access to the hold, but the hold was sealed. Some said it was an inside job, that someone from the airline planted the bomb and then had second thoughts. But the airline's record showed nothing suspicious. Sarah Chun returned home to Seattle 2 days later on a different flight. She hugged her daughter tight and took her to the aquarium as promised. But she could not stop thinking about those moments on the plane, about how close they had all come to dying, about the person who saved them. She wondered if that person was still out there, living a normal life, never telling anyone what they had done. She wondered if she had walked past them in the airport, if she had sat near them on the plane, if their eyes had met for just a moment. Before everything changed. Months passed. The investigation went cold. The FBI closed the case with no arrests and no identified suspects. The bomb had been built by someone with knowledge of explosives. The materials were common enough that they could not be traced. The person who disarmed it had skills that suggested training, military or law enforcement background, but there were thousands of people who fit that description, and none of them could be placed at the scene. The airline implemented new security measures, additional screenings for cargo, more sophisticated monitoring systems. But everyone involved knew that these measures were in response to a threat that had already been neutralized by someone they would never find. The passengers of Flight 743 went back to their lives. Some of them still thought about that day. Some of them had nightmares about what could have happened. But most of them eventually moved on, the way people do when they survive. Something terrible. Captain Reynolds retired 2 years later. On his last flight, he thought about that morning in March, about the blinking red light and the decision to divert, about the bomb squad captain's face when he radioed from the cargo hold to say that device had been disarmed. Reynolds never got an answer to the question that haunted him. Who was on his plane that day? Who had the skills and the opportunity to save them all? He would never know. The device itself was stored in an FBI evidence facility. Occasionally, an agent would pull it out and examine it again, hoping to see something that had been missed. But the answer was always the same. Clean cuts. Professional work. No evidence. Just a mystery that refused to be solved. Some mysteries are never meant to be solved. Some heroes never want to be found. On that March morning, someone made a choice. They saw danger and they acted. They did not wait for permission. They did not worry about credit or recognition. They simply did what needed to be done and then disappeared back into the world. 300 people continued their lives because of that choice. 300 people who will never know the name or face of the person who saved them. The story faded from the news. Other disasters took its place. Other emergencies demanded attention. But for those who were there, for those who sat in those seats and felt the plane divert without explanation, the memory remained sharp. They were the ones who lived because someone, somewhere, decided that their lives mattered more than remaining. Invisible, and that someone is still out there, walking among us. A ghost who cut 3 wires and changed 300 futures. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this.